All the creative things I thought I would see this format, we have Runic Generator taking down a regional. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. We have another classic regional breakdown for you here. And this one is actually kind of interesting for a story because Rescue Ace is our most dominating deck. Now, we don't really see a lot of Rescue Ace builds tending to kind of take down, these regionals anymore. Most of them kind of just get shoved into the back. There's a 1 to 2 up here. But Rescue Ace definitely pulling its weight here for the first time in a very long time. So I'm going to clap for it. It's nice to see. Now, we also had in our heavy contentions corner out here, we had Dragon Link, aka I'm pretty sure that was Trishula playing that build. So you have, of course, somebody very recognizable piloting this. We also had, what was it? That's what it was. Chimera Branded. I don't really tend to... Chimera Branded's still sitting there at the dinner table. Just been a lot more quiet than usual. Now this is where, this is the part of the video where things get interesting. We had an Eldritch variant actually performing out here. Now, let's call it what it is at this point in time. These Horus Eldritch builds that people have been messing around with have been doing a lot of interesting things. I think a lot of people kind of forgot how interesting it is to be messing around with some of these ratios out here and finding success with that. So that's absolutely amazing to see. We have a going second Kashtira list. Yes, I actually got the list from the Duelist. I'm not gonna lie, I just got done building it for this video, and it's actually pretty saucy. And of course, the big highlight of this video is Runic Generator. Now, I've seen, and we've reported a little bit on Generator success this format. It's a little bit more far in between, but a lot of people haven't really explored too much of the options with Runic Generator. But let me tell you, you do feel like you might have a slight confliction of field spells, but don't worry, because the negates are very, very worth it. Let's pass on over to those deck lists. All right, so winning our regional here is our Runic Generator pile. Now, the first things that you're going to notice are we're only playing one copy of Fountain. The thing is, Fountain's going to net you some regeneration and some more grind game potential, but the biggest things that you need to consider here are the value that the individual pieces of the generator stage is going to be putting in for you. Because remember, as much as we love like the double negations, or excuse me, the double interruptions, this card is insane. You also get some pretty crazy value out here for good old Hela as well. The plant, you gotta love for the free search ability. And then, of course, we have good old Utgandar, the traditional pop. Actually, I will say that this is actually pretty decent for the deck. And then, of course, we have triple copies of Vala for making sure that, we can turbo either on Anti-Leviathan or Jormungandr, depending on kind of where our situation sets. And if things start to go a little bit more chaotically, we can actually make the Utopic Future Draco and then enter Blafnir for, hand-ripping options. And that's all in addition to all of the forms that the Runic cards are kind of giving. Also, let's not forget how stupid Monstrosity actually is at the end of the day. Like, literally, you turn one of these into 2 more from the deck, and I think a lot of people kind of forgot that World Legacy Monstrosity does, in fact, exist as a card. Overall, also, you get some pretty little cute options here with Diviner of the Herald here getting to yeet a fairy from the deck. And then, of course, hi Buten, how are you? Outside of that, this is a very interesting pile. It definitely challenges a lot of the norms that the format feels like it's been set into. And I think that's a good thing. All right, more and more people trying to challenge some of the already established metagame. Good. Next up here is our Eldritch pile, as we're going to call it. Now, I've got a couple of Eldritch videos coming up here in the next couple of X time. You'll begin to start seeing them. But the biggest things I want to point out here are the Get and Ken package in this deck is actually one of the craziest things that I think people have explored. Now, normally, Eldritch, I wouldn't say really gives 2 craps about things, but suddenly now that you can thrust into a talents and you can get a hand rip away from your opponent, things are starting to look a little bit crazier, because now you know what effects to save for, and you can actually control the game that way. It's not something that I think Eldritch should really have access to, but it does make an incredibly large difference in all of this. Also, let's call it what it is. I mean, you have 4 Horus monsters that as long as you see an Imseti and you know, something like maybe this or this, now you're suddenly getting some additional advantage back off of this. Now you're putting a lot more pressure on your opponent and forcing them into a much worse situation than they found themselves in before. This deck is actually, that's all very interesting. And of course, we're playing one Canopoic Protector. It's just actually cool to see that, you know, we're getting away with playing the Horus stuff in a deck and still being able to use all of the control aspects that the deck initially had going for it to put that key pressure on your opponent so that you can kind of start to win the game. Crazy, right? Next up here, we had Dragon Link. Now, first thing I'm going to tell you about this list is it looks very, very standard. That tends to be a lot of the Dragon Link that we've kind of encountered for most of this meta. You know, you don't get a lot of challenge out here. Though I did just see a Buster Blader version of this deck kind of enter into the spotlight, which kind of makes me curious to know if some other people are trying this out. But of course, maximizing on the best hand traps that you can kind of have access to. But what's interesting down here is we're actually side decking the talents instead of playing the thrust and things like that. So definitely a change of pace from, once again, the established ideas that this deck has really had going for it. So I like that. You know, challenging the deck builds and going, hey, you know, we don't always have to main deck talents, you know, there are other things. Also, capping this out at 42 cards also feels pretty strong. All right, next up here, we have Rescue Ace. And, ooh, I see we have the tech choices down here. We have the triple enemy controller in this. All right, so let's call it what it is. Either you're main decking Econ this format, or you're looking at it as a semi-cool side deck option because you can call over your opponent's monster and then start ripping down their field very, very easily. I also like the fact that we do see the subdiversion of Snake Eye moving on into the side deck down here. Kind of cool. It does tend to be a brick sometimes, but hey, if you can get it off the ground and have it be an interruption, that's good. I also see that we are side decking Droll and Lockbird. And now this is a cute little tech choice. I see that we are playing a copy of Volcanic Shell down here. Getting the chance to ping for some burn damage in time. A little bit saucy. I didn't think Rescue Ace would be one of the versions to be exploring something like this, but it does open up the possibility out here that, you know, getting as much burn in as you can to ensure that you can win the game. Extremely good. Next up here, we have our Going Second Kashtira deck. Holy crap. Talking about having cards to burn through your opponent. Triple Darkhold, double Lightning Storm, triple Raigeki. You have a Talents in the main deck. This deck is turning the meta upside down, and it's going to slam Going Second every single game, and it doesn't care what your opponent does, unless they're sitting a very big cat on the field. Then they might have a wee little bit of a problem. But outside of that, I mean, you just got to get the cat underneath, start threatening it with some power cards. Also, most of the extra deck down here is 2 of utilities. I mean, you have Flare Metals, Master of Blades, you have a Mountain Smasher, then of course you see the double Zeus and the double Dark Arm Dragon, the Dragon of Armageddon. So you kind of pick which route you need to go down out here to utilize and give you the best option trees to kind of handle your situations. One thing I think Kashtira was extremely good at was its ability to pull resources and do its thing. And our last list that we have out of this regional is actually another copy of Rescue Ace. But once again, you do kind of see a lot more of the Durandal good stuff here. Excuse me, the Assault package. I will say that in the very early stages, this seemed really cool. A lot of people have kind of started to turn away from this. I don't really blame them. The Assault package in this deck, to me, does feel a little bit clunky, but it did manage to top this regional, so we do have to give it some consideration. But the pure build does tend to feel like more of the way to go, just in my personal opinion. But hey, you know, we have Book of Eclipses here. You're getting the ability to control your opponent. Most of the options that are present for, you know, controlling the deck feels pretty good to go. So that is your regional breakdown. Holy crap, Runic Generator, yet Going Second Kashtira. This is what I love to see in the meta. When we actually have counters like this starting to show up. Definitely worth it. So please, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace. Patrons! Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.